talking stuff in practice. If anybody go for his pump fake, it's a $100 fine. I went for every pump fake. I mean, he gave me about 25, and I just remember just being there like, I know his game. He can't get by me, and he just, every time, he gave me the business many times, Marty. He was the man.
Welcome to Basketball Diary. It's 7:10 a.m. in the morning on a Tuesday. I'm with Marty Conlon. How are you, sir?
What's up?
So this guy right here is old school NBA guy. He's got a whole ton of history. Finally got a chance to catch up with him, and got some notes here.
All right.
We're about to ask him and just get his words of wisdom and his storytelling.
Let's do it.
How you been?
Great, great. I'm living here in Long Island City.
Yeah.
Right across from Manhattan. I'm a New Yorker, starting a little bit late, but I have a family. So, maybe you can interview my son, James, in 25 years, if he's still playing, hopefully.
Yeah. So you were born in the Bronx.
Correct.
And Stepinac.
Right, White Plains.
Then went to Providence.
Correct.
I mean, how was that playing with Billy Donovan?
It was great. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and really, I was lucky to play with him and Eric Murdoch, who had a very good career. And those are two of the top 5 guys I've ever met in basketball, just as people. Coach, because he loved basketball. I never saw somebody worked as hard as he did. And, he had that kind of personality that kind of brought you in. So, I really couldn't think of he was obviously the captain of the team, but I really couldn't think of a better guy as a freshman to play under as a senior.
When before you went to Providence,
right?
What was maybe your other 2 schools that you might have had?
I wasn't recruited that highly. I was looking at Xavier.
Okay.
Pete Gillen was the coach there. Yeah. And then I also was looking at Fordham University in the Bronx.
Okay.
And Tom Penders was the coach there. And then he had success later in Texas. The really only other Big East school that I visited was Boston College.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when college basketball was really so competitive. It was just so much talent that really, if you watch college basketball now, it's just not really the same product. My years at Providence, just the players that I would play against were just literally lottery picks. Ronnie Cycli,
yeah.
Derek Coleman, Jason Williams from St. John's, Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo,
Oof.
Bobby Morton. Shorter from Pittsburgh.
Right.
Just awesome players. And then obviously, that whole UConn team was fantastic.
That was a great time over there. What was it like to just play in the Final Four? I mean, most kids at that age going in, they dream of that.
Yeah.
To just play in the Final Four.
Yeah, it was very exciting, and especially it was in New Orleans, a perfect city for it. It was our freshman year. It was definitely a very very interesting, intense experience. We played in the Superdome there in New Orleans, which really wasn't made for basketball. So
right.
I remember literally running like on a track from our locker room to the court. So for a team like Providence, that we had Billy Donovan, Delray Brooks, great outside shooters, that court and then the crowd behind it really wasn't made for shooters.
Yeah,
so it really,
yeah.
Put us at a disadvantage, coming in.
Billy Donovan now, he's a coach. Do you have like one interesting memory about him?
No, interesting memory. I remember one time I missed a big rebound, and we lost the game, and then right after the game he came out to me. He's like, "Don't worry about it. Keep your head up." Even before anybody else did, any of the coaches, he was there. He obviously as a teammate that was important, but as a person that was important. He was just really a fantastic guy.
Okay, so you finish Providence, you start off not straight to the NBA.
No. I wasn't drafted, and then I remember I had to try with the Sacramento Kings many years ago, in the beginning of the '90s, and I played well. They just didn't have a spot for me. I was really just a player to go to camp, but I had played so well that I felt that I could probably play in the NBA. That was really did it, And another thing was that all the players that I mentioned earlier, from Syracuse, from Georgetown, we all know them, were all lottery picks. Literally lottery picks.
Yeah.
All first-round picks, lottery picks. So, I felt that if you're a lottery pick, especially if you're first, second, third pick like Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo, then the expectation maybe you'll be an all-star or you'll be an all-star. So I felt that, if I played well against them and they were going to be a lottery pick, that they were slated to be possibly an all-star, that I could play as a mediocre, as an average NBA player.
Right.
The only problem with this whole scenario was that I was the only one that really saw that. No one else really put those pieces together. So my first year, I was lucky enough to play in Rockford, Illinois.
Yeah.
And again, I was fortunate. I was with that team, and a couple of players got called up to the NBA, for 10 days, and that opened a spot for me. And I just went in, and I was playing quite a bit, and it was great. I loved it. Even though we were not in the most, we're not in San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles. We were in Rockford, Rapid City, Sioux Falls, but I loved it because I loved to play, and the coach was playing me 35 minutes a night, and I was doing well. What happened was, obviously, in the CBA, the money isn't great. So there was an opportunity at the end of seasons to go to France, to finish the season in France. And, it was something that I had to do, obviously, because the money was much better. And then two, it was an opportunity for me to kind of solidify my position in Europe. If I went to France and played well for 2-3 months at the end of the season, then that would kind of get a reputation for me in Europe. Because, I didn't know if the NBA was going to work out all those things.
Right.
So I remember I played in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, before they had the Thunder, before Kevin Durant, yeah. And then we flew back to Rockford. It was a Friday. From Rockford, I took the bus 2 hours to O'Hare. Friday night, flew from O'Hare to Paris. Got into Paris. Saturday morning, signed some papers at the French Basketball Federation. Drove to Le Mans. That was the city I was playing with. It's famous for the car races. So I was okay. From Le Mans, drove another 2 hours to Nantes where we had a game. It was Saturday night, and I played that night. And I didn't play that bad because the jet lag didn't really hit me for another 2 days.
Okay, so you were all adrenaline going in.
I was wild. So literally, I flew. And I was on that Air France flight, knowing that I had to play the next. I was like, "Ooh, I gotta get some sleep on this flight." It was insane.
And then you get back into the NBA.
Right.
Played for 8 teams.
Yeah.
8 years. How was that like? I mean, that's a amazing experience during that period of time too.
Yeah. Like I said again, a lot of this is really just good fortune. I got into teams like, for example, Charlotte. Charlotte. I was with them, and they were decimated by injuries, and they had a wide open offense. You have to remember in the '90s, a lot of offenses was isolation. If you remember how the Jazz played, a lot of ISO, maybe 3 players and the 2 were up. And I was very lucky that I played with Charlotte where they had a wide open offense.
Right.
So I was able to contribute to the offense, and that really kind of helped me get over the top. And then I played with the Milwaukee Bucks, and that was about 21 years ago, the 90s, before the iPhone. And it was great, and then I was playing 25 minutes a night. And what's great about the NBA is even if you have a lousy game Tuesday, you have another game Thursday.
You always rebound.
You always get a game, as opposed to college or playing overseas. You have to stew a whole week or stew 5 days for your next game. The NBA, you have one game after another. So, and when you're playing 25 minutes a night, if you just hustle and do those things, you get a couple of garbage points, get a couple offensive rebounds. You kind of put together a game. So it was, I was very fortunate. It was a fantastic experience.
What were some of your crazy, cool stories that happened on the court and off the court that you could say that happened during the NBA time?
Well, to go back to the CBA,
Okay.
I was in the CBA again.
Yeah.
3 years later, and just touching on luck, fortune, working hard. Again, I was very fortunate. I was playing very well in the CBA, and the Utah Jazz had a call-up. So this is January 1994. And another player in the CBA got called up, power forward. So this was a power forward position. that player got called up before me. So I was like, oh man, good for him. But 5 days later, Charlotte, decimated by injuries, wide open offense, calls me up. Like I said, I was very fortunate. I was playing about 33, 35 minutes a night for 2 straight months. The lucky thing about it is, if I had been called up by the Jazz, I would have missed that opportunity with Charlotte, because the Jazz really just needed one player to sit on the bench, for league rules, and then so that player was up for 10 days, and then he was back down in the CBA.
Okay.
So if I had been called up instead of him, I would have missed that whole opportunity with Charlotte.
Charlotte was key.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, in a career, obviously not at a superstar, but at a middling level like me, a journeyman, there's a lot of good fortune and some luck involved.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Who was like the toughest guy you played against?
Probably the one story I have is I remember in March 1995, Alonzo Mourning on the left block scored. Oh God, I mean it was pretty bad. Like 15 points on me, maybe more, on the fourth quarter. It was so effortless with the shake. He'd fall, throw it up, swish, swish, swish. And then I obviously remember that 95 season, they won their championship the second time. So many years later, of all places, I'm in Dubai airport. And I had heard that Olajuwon was spending half the year in Houston, half the year in the Middle East. So I'm walking in the airport and I see this gentleman about my height with a robe flowing. He just floated right past me in the airport. I was going to India. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Hakeem Olajuwon. And I had like maybe another hour before my flight, and I was gonna go up to him. I was gonna say, hey, do you remember scoring 17 points on me in the fourth quarter in 1995 in Milwaukee? But then I thought to myself, he'd probably say, I need more, because I did that against the whole NBA.
Yeah.
He did that against everybody. He probably, like, for example, if you came up to me and said, Marty, remember you scored 3 points on me on the third quarter? I'd be like, oh, sure, hey, how you doing? But he did that against the whole NBA, that he probably would have been like, hey, I need more information. Who are you? But, yeah. So probably it would be Hakeem Olajuwon.
Okay.
Yeah. Effortless, on the left block, it was just effortless,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was incredible.
What, you finished the NBA, and then you still continued to play
Right.
more overseas, mainly in Europe.
Right.
How was that?
That was, it's a different experience. I wasn't at the top teams, the Panathinaikos, the Bolognias, teams that you hear, CSKA Moscow. I was at a second tier. So it was a little different. It was much more offensive centric.
Yep.
It was really into, the players are great, but if it's in offensive execution. So I remember one time I was running a fast break, classic 3-on-2, and then the 2 European players just stopped at the 3-point line. I was like, what are you doing? We could get a layup. He's like, yeah, but I have an open 3-pointer. So, they just felt so deep. You really, as a big guy, you kind of really, a lot of times when I played, I had especially in Italy, I had to kind of change my play because I didn't want to give out too many hard fouls. Obviously you're taught, don't give up a layup or, make this.
Yeah.
But, the defense in Italy is kind of porous. So as a big guy, if you're trying to stop every close shot that comes in, you're going to be sitting on the bench in foul shots. So it's more a game of almost offensive execution than what we understand, offense and defense. For example, one of the first games that we were there, when I was there playing for my Italian team in Verona, we were up 1.
Yep.
Both teams, with about 20 seconds to go, both teams over the foul limit. So any foul would be 2 foul shots. And our opposing team had 2 European guards that were like, 85, 90% foul shooters.
Right.
The coach instructed the team to foul their point guard the minute he got the ball. And I go, Coach, we want to stop them defensively? Only 20 seconds. He goes, no, I want to foul him. Most definitely, he's going to hit those 2 foul shots. We're going to be down 1, but we'll have the last shot.
Gotcha.
Just like a profound, different idea of defense and basketball. I mean, it's great because so many of those European players, South American players have come to the NBA, and they're passing, they're shooting, You know, their offensive execution is just fantastic. And that's really made the NBA much more fun and pleasant to watch. But you know, over there, the defense is just it's just a different at those middling teams in Italy and Spain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about the top teams. I never played for those.
Wow. So, I mean, once you finish that, you know, you finish your whole entire career, traveled abundant amount of cities throughout your professional playing career. Yeah. You made many have, and they stayed involved in the NBA, which is what you did. And you talked. I know you got great stories about that, because that's like one of the most interesting part of your story. Start working in the NBA.
Right, the NBA office for the NBA corporate office.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate that I was working under my assistant coach from Providence, Stu Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah, Stu Jackson, who I'm still in touch with, who's a fantastic guy. He recruited me just up this river in White Plains at Stepanek for Providence, and then you know many years later he was at the NBA office. So because of my international experience, you know, that I played overseas, I started working for Basketball Operations International, and my job was really grassroots events, basketball camps, basketball clinics, coaching seminars around the world.
Right.
So from 07 to 14, I was in 22 different countries for the NBA. Yeah, insane travel. And then obviously many of those were, you know, repeats. So I was in China many times, in India many times. Basketball in China, the most popular sport in China. You drive, if you're going through China, you see an outdoor court, you never see an outdoor court empty. So either it'll be construction workers off work, college students, always, everybody's playing basketball. They love and for China, it's a perfect sport. You know, they don't have a ton of space over there.
Yeah.
So I was all over China. And it's very popular. The NBA is popular, but really basketball, you know, is really their sport.
I just saw some of the one of my guys. He's over there, and he's actually in China doing the internship. I saw some of the videos of the office in there. It's really beautiful.
Oh yeah. We have we have well over like 150 employees in Shanghai, Beijing, and we also have a Hong Kong office for Pan Asia. It's gorgeous, you know. And then there's tons of events. So a big project with mine when before the economy tanked was Haier. So we all know Haier. We've seen H-A-I-E-R. They're the General Electric of China. They make microwaves, refrigerators. So a huge partnership with the NBA. A very small part of it was putting on 10 basketball camps each summer in China. So this is when we had an ample budget before the economy tanked, and we would bring NBA assistant coaches, former players.
Right.
Then I'd work on guys who had just finished playing college ball to come over as coaches, and then we were like this potluck party that we would travel throughout China, all these different Chinese cities, putting on basketball camps, and it was very interesting. The players were very hardworking. Amazing. They could watch you. I was younger then, so I could show what I wanted them to do on the court, and they'd watch, and they could replicate it. Amazing, and they really wanted to get better and learn. It was a very fun experience.
You've been to so many of these countries. What was one of your favorite countries that you enjoyed?
One was I was very interested. Was through the State Department, sports diplomacy. Was Uzbekistan.
Okay, how was that?
Oh man, it was actually Tashkent, beautiful city, and I got there through a backdoor way. This is in 2011. I was doing Sprite clinics in Kenya.
Okay.
I was with Masai, the general manager. Yeah, he was over there.
From Toronto.
Yeah, he was in Kenya, so he had a hero's welcome in Kenya because that's where he's from. I was with him. And we were doing clinics through Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. From there, this is how crazy my job was. I flew from Tanzania to Bangalore, India, and I was the David Stern of Bangalore. I was the Adam Silver of Bangalore, David Stern then, and I was running a basketball league. So it was a Saturday, Sunday league, and I'd have a men's division, kids division, college division, and I was running this outdoors, and we'd have teams come in, come out. And then from there, I flew from Bangalore, Delhi, over the Himalayas. Yeah, they're bigger than the Catskills. So I'll say that. They're bigger than the Catskills. To Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and it was very interesting. It was sports diplomacy. So I went through with our embassy there in Tashkent. We put on basketball coaching seminars, basketball clinics, press conferences, small press conferences, all through Uzbekistan. It was fascinating, fascinating place. So, but that project, you really need to be comfortable on the court because, for example, I met the ambassador. Obviously that was a thrill, and then I would do a clinic for tiny tots, boys and girls, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10. Then right after that, I would do a coaching clinic for coaches, and then after that, I worked with a semi-pro team that were like maybe Division I talent. So you'd really have to be you'd really have
a lot of variations.
A lot of variations, and you'd have to be comfortable with each. So when I first got the job, I was comfortable working with more talented players or older players, skilled players, and then I had to learn to kind of really, just work with the tiny tots, get them busy, get them moving, and try to communicate some skills. But obviously, the most important thing is for them to have fun.
Now, recently, you kind of taken a step away because you had a kid.
Yeah.
And now you're coaching.
Yeah, I'm coaching. Right across. At Avenue School. It's a for-profit school. Yeah, it's a fascinating place, and it's definitely been an interesting experience, But coaching a lot of these schools in Manhattan, because of the city of Manhattan, I think it's pretty crowded over there. Yeah, it is. The courts are smaller.
Yeah.
So we're all playing on small courts. It's not regulations of course I've been used to. So that takes some getting used to, but. Working with high school players is a lot different than obviously working with pro players, working with Division I college players. But I had some background in that, in communicating with them, because a huge part of my job internationally was communication on the court. And for example, like the sensibility of like a hard-charging coach, let's say a hard-charging college coach, because of cultural sensitivities, what have you. You really couldn't bring that persona to China. You couldn't really bring that to India.
Right.
You really had to think of yourself almost as a diplomat, and then communicate to the players in a positive way, but not with that whole rah-rah shtick. So I'm kind of used to working with players like that. So I kind of bring that to the high school players at Avenues because it's a very high-performing academic school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So two of the final things I want to ask you is, the league that you played in and the league today, I mean, drastically different.
Yeah, very different.
Much more international than before.
Correct.
Bigger pie.
Yeah.
Compared to that. And the style of the game has changed tremendously. What's your thoughts on that? And what do you think of some of the players that are coming into the league?
Oh, I think it's great. I just think it's great. I think I touched on a little bit earlier. In the mid '90s, it was a lot of that isolation.
Yeah.
And you see, especially early '90s, you see like two players high, and then because of the rules, the guys guarding them had to be removed. So it was almost like 2-on-2 basketball, 3-on-3 basketball. The offensive flow now is so much better. So much better. Watching teams play offensively.
Gotcha.
I think. Phil Jackson and all the success he's had with the triangle.
Yeah.
I just think that really helped the NBA. So I think in that sense, it's much better. With all those international players, I always felt that, I'm so old that I played against Yugoslavia when it was Yugoslavia, before it was Croatia, before it was Bosnia, before it was Serbia. So all those players played. And, this team just was amazingly talented. And I always felt that a lot of those players, they ended up going to the NBA. But I was like, wow, so many of these players can be in the NBA. And now that route is open for them, that I think, I think it's great. Because Americans have always been going to Europe, playing there. So now I think it's good that European South Americans come to the NBA. Obviously, that's been going on for years now.
And finally, I want to ask you, this is because you've been in the whole spectrum of things. From my perspective, what would you recommend people who want to get in the door with the NBA, professional teams, or the office? What would be the key steps into going forward and taking that next step up?
I think you want to collect as many skills as possible. So when I talk to players on the court, I go, I talk about, as a player, I try to collect as many skills. So even though I was always the tallest guy in my class in high school and grade school, I always work on my outside shot, ball handling, because I knew, not in high school, but the level after that, I need that. I need that outside shooter. I need that to become, get to the highest level. So I think for somebody trying to get in the door with the team, with the NBA office, is to collect as many experiences as possible. So for example, when I played internationally, I also was the assistant coach for the Irish national team.
Yep.
So, and then I did, camps throughout New York. So, I try to do as many different things. So when somebody's looking at your resume, somebody's interviewing, you say, well, I have that experience here, I have that experience there. I just think a well-rounded resume. And now, with basketball and world sport, I think people can get that kind of experience.
Wow. This has been like amazing info and storytelling. I do totally appreciate this.
Sure, my pleasure.
Oh yeah, one of the things we didn't meet through, we met at the Indian Day Parade. You remember that?
Oh really? Yes.
Yeah,
vaguely,
yeah.
yes.
You were like in the CIA suit.
Yeah.
Sunglasses on,
Oh well, I was the NBA
6'10"
rep.
guy on the corner.
Yeah.
Hey, clear, all clear.
Yep.
Yeah, Rand was there, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
King's owner, and that was a very interesting day. He was super busy.
Yeah. Well, I spent quite a bit of time in India for the NBA.
Yeah.
Bangalore, Delhi. Our friend Ross, we worked together in Mumbai.
Yeah.
So obviously, that's a big market for us. I think for basketball in India, there's so many universities in India right now, and education is such a priority for people there that if a basketball league, basketball teams can be at every university there, and then a criteria for a student to get into that university, be part of the university, is basketball and being on a basketball team. I think that could really generate a lot of interest, not necessarily for the NBA, but for basketball.
Wow.
Yeah,
Marty, thank you.
You got it. My
This
pleasure.
is the man right here.
You got it.